At exactly 10 p.m. on Halloween night, October 31st, 2025, Comedy Central unleashed what would become the most brutal character assassination in South Park history. In episode 2 of season 28, titled The Woman in the Hat, creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone delivered a masterclass in political satire that left social media ablaze and Attorney General Pam Bondi trending worldwide for all the wrong reasons. The weapon of choice? A brown substance that would haunt Bondi's animated face throughout the entire episode, transforming America's top prosecutor into the internet's biggest punchline. The episode opened with President Trump demolishing the White House's East Wing to build a $300 million ballroom, much to the horror of his pregnant boyfriend, Satan, who had expected a nursery for their anticipated demon child. But it was the introduction of Pam Bondi that would cement this episode as a viral sensation and political commentary for the ages. We won't let any harm come to the baby of the greatest president that ever lived. You are without equal, sir, and we are honored to be. Bondi began her characteristic sycophantic praise during a White House national security meeting. But before she could finish, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino interrupted with a line that would be quoted across the internet for weeks. Pam, sorry, you got a little shit on your nose there. What followed was a running gag so savage, so relentlessly executed, that it transformed political satire into performance art. Every time Bondi praised Trump, every time she demonstrated her unwavering loyalty, every time she opened her mouth to defend the president, the brown substance would reappear on her nose, growing larger and more prominent with each sycophantic utterance. The genius of Parker and Stone's approach wasn't just in the crude visual humor, it was in the surgical precision with which they dissected the relationship between Trump and his most loyal cabinet member. The substance wasn't random, it was a physical manifestation of political brown-nosing taken to its most literal and disgusting conclusion. As the episode progressed, Trump found himself haunted by a mysterious figure in a wide-brimmed hat who appeared in corners and mirrors throughout the White House. The spectre was revealed to be none other than First Lady Melania Trump, whose face remained hidden beneath the purple hat she had worn during a UK state visit. Stephen Miller, depicted as a hunchbacked eagle-like creature, warned that demolishing the East Wing had unleashed some sort of wrath, but it was Bondi's escalating humiliation that captured viewers' attention and social media's imagination. The brown substance on her nose continued to grow throughout the episode, defying her attempts to wipe it away. When paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called to the White House to investigate the supernatural occurrences, they identified the substance on Bondi's face as rectoplasm, a bridge between the spiritual world and reality. The scientific analysis of Bondi's facial contamination provided the episode's most devastating commentary on Trump's dietary habits and their political implications. The male investigator, examining a sample under a microscope, delivered his findings with clinical precision. It's 54% filet-o-fish sandwich. Trump's surprised reaction. I had a filet-o-fish sandwich last night, drew knowing laughter from viewers familiar with the president's fast food obsessions. The analysis continued with mounting absurdity and pointed criticism. 28% Taco Bell, the investigator announced, prompting Trump's admission that he had consumed Taco Bell that morning. But the final component delivered the episode's most shocking revelation. 14% its own shit. As Trump began to express surprise in the same manner, nearly admitting to consuming his own feces before catching himself in embarrassed backpedaling, viewers witnessed a perfect encapsulation of the administration's relationship with truth and dignity. The rectoplasm gag served multiple satirical purposes. On its surface, it was a crude joke about political ass-kissing made literally visual, but deeper analysis revealed a sophisticated commentary on how political loyalty could become so extreme that it transformed officials into vessels for the very worst impulses of their leaders. Bondi's face, increasingly covered in the substance as the episode progressed, became a canvas for depicting the degradation of institutional integrity. The episode's supernatural elements provided the perfect framework for political allegory. Melania's ghostly presence, haunting the White House after the destruction of the East Wing, represented the lingering consequences of Trump's disregard for institutional traditions. Her silent, ominous appearances in corners and mirrors suggested a marriage and presidency haunted by unspoken truths and suppressed rage. The supporting cast of Trump administration officials assembled for a climactic séance that read like a rogues gallery of political caricature. Vice President J.D. Vance appeared paranoid that Bondi was positioning herself to steal his job. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr was depicted as a mummy, wrapped in casts and having lost his freedom of speech after injuries sustained in a previous episode. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem appeared as her usual ghoulish self, setting the stage for her face to literally melt off during the supernatural proceedings. The seance sequence provided the episode's most surreal and satirically rich moments. As Bondi attempted to lead the ritual to rid the White House of Melania's vengeful spirit, her own supernatural affliction, the ever-growing rectoplasm made her an increasingly unreliable spiritual guide. The irony was perfect. The official tasked with cleansing the White House of supernatural corruption was herself the most contaminated person in the room. The episode's cryptocurrency subplot, featuring Kyle's cousin Kyle Schwartz attempting to secure White House approval for a "South Park Sucks Now" meme coin, provided additional layers of satirical commentary. When Schwartz confessed during the seance that cryptocurrency was just a giant money laundering scheme for the rich to get richer, Bondi's response was swift and characteristic: immediate indictment for speaking negatively about the president. "We will continue to indict anyone who says bad stuff about our amazing president," Bondi declared, her face now completely obscured by the brown substance that had taken over her entire visage. The line perfectly encapsulated the Justice Department's transformation under her leadership from an independent legal institution into a vehicle for presidential revenge. The episode's self-referential elements added another dimension to its satirical impact. Stan Marsh's complaint that South Park sucks now because of all this political shit acknowledged viewer criticism while simultaneously demonstrating why political satire remained essential. The show's willingness to examine its own evolution and defend its political focus showed a level of self-awareness that enhanced rather than undermined its satirical authority. Social media reaction was immediate and explosive. Twitter users shared screenshots of Bondi's increasingly contaminated face with captions like, "South Park is nailing it on the head," and "This South Park episode is killing me omfing." The hashtag number, Rectoplasmagate, began trending within hours of the episode's conclusion, with viewers creating memes and animated GIFs of Bondi's progressive degradation throughout the episode. The episode's timing, airing on Halloween night, amplified its cultural impact. The horror movie aesthetics, complete with supernatural investigators and melting faces, provided the perfect framework for political horror comedy. The show's decision to move the episode from its originally scheduled Wednesday slot to Halloween night demonstrated the creator's understanding of how timing could enhance satirical impact. Professional critics and political commentators struggled to analyze an episode that operated simultaneously as crude comedy and sophisticated political commentary. The rectoplasm gag could be dismissed as juvenile humor, but its systematic application throughout the episode created a cumulative effect that transcended simple scatological jokes. By the episode's conclusion, Bondi's complete facial obscuration by the brown substance had become a powerful visual metaphor for the complete corruption of institutional integrity. The episode's international reception demonstrated South Park's continued relevance as American cultural commentary. Foreign news outlets covered the episode as evidence of growing domestic criticism of the Trump administration, while authoritarian governments pointed to the show as evidence of American cultural decadence. The fact that a cartoon could generate such widespread political discussion demonstrated the continued power of satirical media in shaping public discourse. Perhaps most significantly, the episode's viral success proved that political satire retained its ability to cut through the noise of contemporary media saturation. In an era of endless political coverage and commentary, Parker and Stone had managed to create a single-image Bondi's shit-covered face that communicated more about political corruption than thousands of hours of cable news analysis. The lasting impact of The Woman in the Hat extended far beyond its initial broadcast. The rectoplasm gag became shorthand for political sycophancy, with social media users applying the term to describe excessive loyalty to political figures across the spectrum. The episode's visual metaphors entered the political lexicon, providing new vocabulary for describing the degradation of institutional norms. As the credits rolled on Halloween night, viewers had witnessed something rare in contemporary media, a satirical masterpiece that managed to be simultaneously juvenile and sophisticated, crude and insightful, hilarious and horrifying. Pam Bondi's animated humiliation had become a cultural moment that transcended entertainment to become political commentary of the highest order. The episode proved that even in an era of political exhaustion and satirical oversaturation, the right combination of timing, creativity, and fearless execution could still create content that pierced the national consciousness. The Woman in the Hat didn't just destroy Pam Bondi, it demonstrated the enduring power of satirical media to shape political discourse through the simple act of making powerful people look ridiculous. In the end, the episode's greatest achievement was transforming America's Attorney General from a feared enforcer of presidential will into a figure of international ridicule, all through the simple device of putting shit on her nose every time she praised her boss. Sometimes the most sophisticated political commentary comes wrapped in the crudest possible package,